As we begin this journey together, I want you to imagine that we are seated in a quiet room, perhaps surrounded by soft afternoon sunlight, the kind that gently warms the skin without overwhelming it. It is the kind of light that reminds us of peaceful days, of long conversations, and of moments where we finally have time to think about our health with clarity and without hurry. In this calm setting, let us talk about the liver, not in a frightening way, not in a dramatic way, but with the quiet honesty and respect that such a hard-working organ deserves. The liver, after all, carries decades of our choices. It remembers every celebration feast, every midnight snack, every cup of tea, every spoonful of seasoning. It works through it all without complaint. And perhaps that is why we tend to overlook it, because it never cries out. In the world of modern medicine, the liver is recognized as one of the most remarkable and resilient organs in the human body. It filters the blood, breaks down fats, regulates metabolism, and detoxifies substances we do not even realize we consume. But we, as human beings, often push its limits without knowing. And in older age, when the body's regenerative capacity slows, the liver becomes more vulnerable to things that once felt harmless. Liver specialists around the world have begun raising awareness about this, not to cause fear, but to remind us that good health in the later chapters of life is an art, a combination of knowledge, moderation, and the wisdom to make gentle adjustments at the right time. Among the many factors that influence liver health, one topic has gained special attention: the spices and seasonings we use every day. For most of our lives, seasoning is simply seasoning, something we sprinkle onto food without a second thought. We use it by habit, by memory, by taste, and sometimes simply because that's how we have always cooked. But in recent years, medical researchers have carefully examined how certain spices, when misused or overused, can accelerate fatty liver, inflammation, and liver cell stress. Not because the spices themselves are inherently bad. They are not. In fact, many of them, when used properly, are beneficial. The danger lies in excessive quantity, poor quality products, or combinations that overwhelm the aging liver. This conversation is not about removing joy from food, and certainly not about stripping flavor away from your meals. Flavor is a form of happiness. It is culture, memory, and comfort. But flavor should not come at the cost of our long-term well-being. The purpose of this discussion is simply to guide you gently through the science, to show you how certain spices may be working against your liver and how a few mindful adjustments can make an enormous difference in your energy, your digestion, and your overall health. Let us begin with a thought experiment. Imagine your liver as a highly experienced worker who has been performing the same job for decades. When you were younger, this worker was strong, energetic, capable of handling heavy workloads and late-night shifts without slowing down. But as the years passed, the workload remained the same, or even increased, while the worker's energy gradually decreased. Eventually, even the most loyal worker needs support, lighter duties, or at the very least, fewer unnecessary tasks. This is how spices interact with your liver. Some spices lighten the load, while others, especially the ones we're discussing today, add tasks your liver did not ask for. Chili powder, for instance, is one such ingredient. It is deeply rooted in culinary tradition across many cultures, loved for its ability to enliven dishes and awaken the senses. However, research shows that excessive capsaicin, the active compound in chili, can induce oxidative stress in liver cells. Oxidative stress is a scientific term that essentially means the liver is experiencing chemical pressure. When liver cells undergo repeated oxidative stress, inflammation follows. Inflammation does not always announce itself with pain. So many people assume nothing is wrong. Yet, at the microscopic level, the liver cells become irritated, swollen, and slower at doing their usual jobs. And as we age, our ability to recover from such cellular stress weakens. What used to be harmless becomes burdensome. People often feel proud that they can handle very spicy food in their older age. But the truth is, it is not about the tongue. It is about the liver's ability to quietly keep up with the chemical processing behind the scenes. Turmeric, on the other hand, is a fascinating case because it exists on both sides of the health spectrum. On one side, it is celebrated globally as a powerful anti-inflammatory agent, rich in curcumin, a compound praised in medical journals. On the other side, turmeric has become so popular that many individuals, especially in their older years, consume it in doses far exceeding what the liver can comfortably process. The problem is not turmeric itself, but the modern trend of the more, the better. High-concentration supplements, daily teaspoons of turmeric powder mixed into water, tea, or milk, and even turmeric capsules have become widespread. The liver, however, must metabolize curcumin in a multi-step biochemical process. When too much curcumin enters the bloodstream at once, these pathways become overloaded. This creates metabolic pressure that is especially straining for older adults. So while turmeric carries real benefits, uncontrolled consumption turns it from a protector into a burden. Then there is MSG, monosodium glutamate. It is not a traditional spice, yet it behaves like one in kitchens across the world. MSG enhances flavor by triggering umami receptors on the tongue, making food taste richer and more satisfying. Liver specialists caution that frequent, excessive use of MSG may promote fat accumulation in liver cells, particularly in individuals who already have metabolic concerns such as diabetes, obesity, or high blood pressure. This does not mean MSG is poison or that it must never be used. The science simply indicates that when aging slows liver metabolism, the body becomes less efficient at clearing excess glutamate and sodium. Over time, small daily excesses add up. Salt, the oldest seasoning in human civilization, requires little introduction. It preserves, enhances, balances, and transforms flavor. Yet, from a biological standpoint, salt is a molecular irritant when consumed in excess. The liver and kidneys work in partnership to regulate sodium balance. In older adults, kidney filtration rate decreases naturally. When kidneys struggle to manage sodium, the liver indirectly suffers. High sodium intake worsens water retention, inflammation, and blood pressure, all factors that worsen fatty liver progression. Again, the culprit is not salt itself, but the quantity. Many older adults develop a reduced sense of taste, leading them to add more salt to compensate, unaware that the liver is quietly paying the price. Sugar, although technically not a spice, behaves like one in many kitchens. A sprinkle on fruit, a spoon in porridge, a quick addition to soup, tea, or sauces. All these habits seem harmless. Yet sugar metabolism directly affects the liver more intensely than most ingredients. When sugar enters the bloodstream, especially fructose, the liver is responsible for converting it. Excess sugar is rapidly transformed into fat molecules that accumulate in liver cells, forming fatty liver. What makes sugar particularly dangerous is its silent nature. Unlike spicy food, it does not burn. Unlike salty food, it does not taste excessive. It comforts the palate while slowly straining the liver's metabolic capacity. And finally, the modern convenience ingredient, pre-packaged seasoning mixes. These colorful packets often contain artificial colors, preservatives, high sodium levels, synthetic flavor enhancers, and stabilizers. For a younger liver, detoxification enzymes operate at high efficiency. But for an older liver, these additives create a backlog, like assigning a single worker the responsibilities of an entire department. In time, this contributes to inflammation and makes non-alcoholic fatty liver disease progress more rapidly. Yet in all of this, there is no reason for alarm, only awareness. Awareness is empowering. When you understand what the liver is experiencing, you begin to cook, eat, and season your food, not out of habit, but out of wisdom. You begin to realize that small adjustments, less salt, fewer processed seasonings, mindful use of chili, balanced turmeric intake, moderated MSG, and reduced sugar can result in a profound transformation in how your body feels each day. Energy improves. Digestion becomes smoother. Blood pressure, cholesterol, and liver enzymes often stabilize. The liver itself, remarkable as it is, begins to repair. The beauty of a human liver is its resilience. Even after years of stress, it has the ability to regenerate, to heal, to recover with proper care. You do not need extreme diets. You do not need to remove joy from your meals. What you need is balance. The kind of balance that respects both the joy of flavor and the quiet pleas of an aging liver that has served you faithfully for a lifetime. When we consider how these spices interact with the liver, it becomes essential to understand the concept of metabolic load. Every substance entering the body must be processed, transformed, or neutralized before it can be safely circulated or eliminated. For younger individuals, metabolic pathways operate with remarkable efficiency. But for older adults whose livers have undergone decades of exposure to environmental toxins, dietary habits, medications, and natural aging, the margin for overload becomes much smaller. Liver specialists often describe this as reduced metabolic resilience. What this means, in simpler terms, is that the liver becomes less tolerant of sudden spikes in certain compounds, whether they come from strongly flavored spices, high-sodium seasonings, artificial additives, or concentrated herbal powders. The body has a way of offering subtle warnings long before any serious condition develops. These warnings may appear as fatigue after meals, mild bloating, discomfort in the upper abdomen, unexplained sluggishness, or even sleep disturbances. But because these signs seem so ordinary, many people ignore them and continue using the same seasonings in the same quantities. It is only much later, when a doctor mentions elevated liver enzymes, signs of fatty liver, or inflammation on an ultrasound, that we begin to trace the causes of these changes. And while fatty liver disease may seem complex, its development often begins with the smallest choices: the seasoning we add, the extra spoonful we sprinkle, the convenience mix we rely on because it saves time. But the good news is that the solution also begins with small choices. Small adjustments, made consistently, can trigger powerful improvements in liver health. Medical researchers have observed that even slight reductions in sodium, sugar, and synthetic additives can significantly lower inflammation markers. Similarly, moderating spicy ingredients can reduce oxidative stress within liver cells. The liver, as I've said earlier, possesses an extraordinary regenerative capacity. When you give it space to breathe, less metabolic pressure, fewer irritants, more supportive nutrients, it responds with surprising speed. Understanding this allows us to view seasoning not as something to fear, but as something to respect. In the past, seasoning was used sparingly because it was rare and expensive. Today, flavorings are abundant, inexpensive, and aggressively marketed, leading to widespread overuse. A simple dish that once required just salt, pepper, and fresh herbs now includes multiple layers of flavor enhancers, ready-made spice packets, colored powders, and high-sodium sauces. Each individual component may be acceptable on its own, but combined, they create a cumulative burden that the liver must process daily. As we delve deeper into the science, it becomes clear that inflammation, chronic, low-grade inflammation, is one of the key factors connecting these 6 spices to fatty liver disease. Inflammation occurs when liver cells respond to irritants or metabolic stress. Over time, chronic inflammation leads to scarring, known as fibrosis. If fibrosis progresses, it becomes cirrhosis, a condition in which healthy liver tissue is replaced with stiff, non-functional tissue. While this progression often takes years, the earliest stages are reversible. The turning point exists long before symptoms appear, which is why early awareness is so valuable. Take chili powder as an example. Capsaicin, its main active compound, is known for increasing digestive heat and stimulating circulation. But too much capsaicin can irritate the gastrointestinal tract and send inflammatory signals to the liver. Studies have shown that frequent consumption of highly concentrated chili powder triggers oxidative stress in hepatocytes, the primary functional cells of the liver. This oxidative stress increases the liver's need for antioxidants, such as glutathione. In younger individuals, glutathione levels replenish quickly. In older adults, however, glutathione production diminishes with age. So when chili-induced oxidative stress becomes a daily occurrence, the liver gradually loses its protective shield. Similarly, turmeric's active compound, curcumin, interacts with liver enzymes through a process known as phase 2 detoxification. This pathway involves conjugation reactions, where the liver attaches molecules to toxins or substances for easier elimination. While curcumin is beneficial in moderate amounts, high doses saturate these pathways. This saturation slows the breakdown of other substances, meaning medications, hormones, and dietary fats may accumulate longer in the bloodstream. Researchers have observed elevated liver enzymes in individuals who consumed excessive turmeric supplements, particularly when combined with other herbal products. The elderly, who often take multiple medications, become more vulnerable to such interactions. MSG introduces another pathway of concern, excitotoxicity. Although MSG is safe within moderate limits, glutamate, the amino acid in MSG, can overstimulate certain receptors when consumed excessively. This overstimulation increases metabolic activity inside liver cells. Over time, if combined with high sodium intake and age-related metabolic decline, MSG contributes to fat droplet accumulation within hepatocytes. This condition, known as steatosis, is the early stage of fatty liver disease. The progression is usually silent, making it crucial to pay attention long before symptoms appear. Salt, of course, follows a different mechanism. Sodium affects fluid balance, blood pressure, and vascular tension. Elevated sodium levels increase the workload on the heart and kidneys. When kidney filtration slows with age, sodium concentration rises in the bloodstream. This triggers systemic inflammation, a state in which multiple organs, including the liver, experience low-grade inflammatory responses. The liver, already burdened with detoxifying waste products, becomes more vulnerable to fatty accumulation. Sugar, meanwhile, acts through metabolic disruption. When sugar enters the bloodstream, the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin signals the liver and muscles to store glucose. Excess glucose, however, converts to triglycerides. These triglycerides remain trapped inside liver cells when insulin resistance develops. This is why older adults with prediabetes or diabetes face higher risks of fatty liver disease. Frequent sugar sprinkles, habitual sweetened beverages, and desserts may seem modest individually, but the liver experiences them cumulatively. Packaged seasoning mixes combine multiple sources of stress: artificial coloring, preservatives, high sodium, synthetic flavor enhancers, stabilizers, and sometimes even trans fats. The liver must break down each chemical component separately. For older adults whose enzyme activity has slowed, these mixtures create a significant detoxification backlog. Specialists often describe this backlog as metabolic congestion. This congestion does not cause immediate symptoms, which makes it easy to ignore. But beneath the surface, it thickens the liver's workload and accelerates inflammation. So what does all this mean for daily life? It means that the spices and seasonings we have long trusted deserve a more thoughtful approach. Not fear, not elimination, just thoughtful moderation. Consider the difference between using a small pinch of salt versus a full teaspoon. Consider how often you reach for the chili powder out of habit rather than necessity. Think about the convenient spice packet that seems harmless but contains additives your liver must labor to clear. These reflections are not meant to restrict you, but to empower you. The path to supporting your liver is not paved with strict diets or joyless meals. It begins with restoring the relationship between food and awareness. When you become aware of what your liver endures, each meal becomes a chance to care for it. You begin to notice flavor in fresh herbs like basil, cilantro, oregano, and parsley. You rediscover the richness of garlic, the warmth of ginger, the calming aroma of cinnamon, and the depth of cloves. These natural seasonings offer complexity without burden. And while they are not free from metabolic demands, their demands are far gentler compared to synthetic mixes or excessive salt. You also start noticing how food makes you feel, not only during the meal but afterward. You may realize that lighter seasoning gives you more energy, makes digestion smoother, and reduces the heavy feeling after eating. This renewed awareness becomes the foundation for long-term change. And over time, as the liver experiences fewer irritants, inflammation subsides. Fat accumulation begins to reverse. Blood tests improve. Ultrasound results stabilize. The liver regenerates. In the clinical world, specialists often witness this transformation firsthand. Patients who make thoughtful dietary adjustments, particularly regarding seasoning, show measurable improvements in as little as 3 months. Their energy levels rise, their digestive comfort improves, and their sleep becomes deeper. Many also report clearer thinking, reduced headaches, and greater physical stamina. These improvements are not magical. They are biological consequences of reducing metabolic pressure on the liver. To appreciate how remarkable this transformation can be, imagine again that dedicated worker we talked about earlier, your liver. For decades, it has carried out its responsibilities without rest. Now imagine giving that worker lighter tasks, supportive tools, and a cleaner workspace. It begins to accomplish its duties with renewed clarity. It works more efficiently, more smoothly, more happily. The same happens inside your body. This is why understanding the impact of spices on liver health is so important. Once you understand the science, you begin to cook not only for flavor, but for resilience. You season not only for taste, but for longevity. And you begin noticing that the greatest pleasures in food do not disappear with moderation. They deepen. As we reflect on this journey together, an important realization emerges. The foods we eat and the spices we add to them are not merely sources of flavor. They are instructions. Each ingredient sends biochemical messages to the liver, and the liver responds accordingly. Some messages encourage healing, regeneration, and balance. Others create strain, inflammation, and metabolic confusion. But the beauty of this system is that it is never too late to adjust these messages. No matter your age, no matter how long you have lived with certain habits, your liver listens immediately to the changes you make today. It does not hold grudges, it does not resist improvement, and it does not delay recovery out of stubbornness. Instead, it responds quickly, generously, and faithfully when given even the smallest opportunity to heal. In the field of hepatology, the medical study of the liver, specialists consistently emphasize that early lifestyle adjustments are far more impactful than later medical interventions. This is not to undermine the value of medication, but to highlight that the liver prefers natural cooperation over external correction. When patients gradually reduce the use of high-risk spices, they begin to notice internal shifts that doctors can quantify. Enzyme levels such as ALT and AST begin to drop. GGT levels stabilize. Fatty accumulation visibly decreases on imaging. Inflammatory markers begin to settle. These are measurable, observable improvements, not abstract ideas or theories. And for older adults, these changes often bring a renewed sense of vitality, as if the body had been quietly waiting for permission to function optimally again. Still, some individuals fear that adjusting seasoning habits means a lifetime of bland meals. But this fear is rooted in misconception rather than truth. The reality is that our taste buds evolve with age. What once required strong, salty, spicy flavors to feel satisfying often becomes overwhelming or unnecessary in later years. As taste sensitivity changes, subtler flavors become easier to appreciate. The gentle sweetness of vegetables, the natural richness of slow-cooked broth, the aroma of herbs, and the warmth of simple spices become more noticeable. This shift allows older adults to enjoy food in a deeper, more refined way, provided the meal is not drowned out by excessive or harsh seasonings. The shift toward liver-friendly seasoning also opens a door to cultural rediscovery. Many traditional cuisines originally relied on fresh ingredients and mild, natural flavors long before processed seasonings entered the market. Our grandparents and great-grandparents prepared meals using simple spices, minimal salt, and fresh herbs harvested from gardens or nearby fields. Their dishes were balanced, nourishing, and surprisingly liver-friendly. It is only in recent decades that the widespread availability of mass-produced seasonings, fast food, and high-sodium products has altered flavor expectations. Returning to traditional flavors is not just healthier. It reconnects us with culinary history and cultural identity. This reconnection matters because food is not merely a biological need. It is a social and emotional experience. Meals are where families gather, stories are shared, and memories are created. The aroma of a familiar dish can transport us to another time, another place. So when we speak of adjusting seasoning habits, we are not trying to remove joy from your dining table. We are protecting the very experiences that make meal times meaningful. And the liver, which quietly supports your energy, mood, digestion, and cognitive clarity, ensures that these moments can be enjoyed fully. The emotional aspect of liver care is often overlooked, but it is profoundly important. Many older adults feel that their health is predetermined by age or family history. They believe decline is inevitable, and so they continue old habits simply because change feels pointless. But nothing could be further from the truth. The human body, even in advanced age, is incredibly adaptive. Small improvements in diet, seasoning, hydration, and lifestyle yield benefits far beyond expectations. A lighter liver leads to a clearer mind. Reduced inflammation results in better sleep. Balanced sodium improves circulation. Reduced sugar stabilizes energy. These improvements may seem small, but together they elevate quality of life in powerful ways. It is also important to acknowledge that change does not happen instantly. The goal is not perfection, but progress. If you reduce your salt intake today, your taste buds will adapt within a few weeks. If you replace a portion of chili powder with fresh herbs, your digestion will improve gradually. If you swap packaged seasoning mixes for natural ingredients, your liver will quietly thank you in biochemical ways you cannot see but will eventually feel. Every small step compounds over time, like small deposits added into a long-term savings account. And the return on this investment is nothing less than your comfort, energy, and longevity. Let's also think about how these changes influence relationships and family dynamics. When you take steps toward better liver health, you become a model for younger generations. Children and grandchildren observe your choices, consciously or unconsciously. They notice when you prioritize your well-being. They learn the value of moderation. And even though they may still reach for spicy noodles or sugary desserts, the example you set becomes a quiet lesson that stays with them throughout life. In this way, your decision to adjust your seasoning habits extends beyond your personal health. It becomes a gift to your family. And what are those moments when cravings arise, when nostalgia calls you back to the comfort of strong flavors? This is completely natural. Food memories are powerful. But rather than resisting cravings with strict discipline, consider honoring them in a gentler way. If you crave something spicy, reduce the chili powder, but increase garlic or ginger for warmth. If you crave something salty, add a splash of lemon or herbs to enhance flavor without overloading sodium. If you want sweetness, enjoy fruit or use a small amount of honey sparingly. These substitutions provide satisfaction without pushing your liver beyond its limits. The liver responds well to balance, not restriction. It appreciates consistency more than intensity. You do not need to overhaul your entire diet overnight. You simply need to send different biochemical messages little by little. In scientific terms, you are reducing hepatocellular stress. In everyday terms, you are giving your liver a break. As you adjust, you may notice that your meals take on new dimensions. You begin to savor flavors that were previously overshadowed by strong seasonings. You rediscover the natural sweetness in carrots, the earthiness in mushrooms, the fragrance in slow-simmered soups, and the elegance in lightly seasoned fish. Food becomes not only nourishment, but a sensory experience, gentler, cleaner, and more attuned to the way your body feels today. Over time, these changes accumulate not just in your liver, but in your overall well-being. People often report improvements they did not expect. Clearer skin, reduced joint stiffness, improved mood stability, better bowel movements, lighter sleep, fewer headaches, and a general feeling of lightness in the body. These are signs of reduced systemic inflammation, improved detoxification efficiency, and better metabolic harmony. These improvements are the body's quiet applause for the choices you are making. But perhaps the most profound transformation occurs in how you view your own health. Aging often comes with a narrative of loss. Loss of strength, loss of youth, loss of options. Yet when you take control of your seasoning habits, you reclaim something powerful: agency. You realize you are not a passive observer of your health. You are an active participant. You influence your future with each spoonful, each meal, each conscious choice. And that realization brings hope, genuine, science-backed hope. As we near the end of this long, thoughtful journey, imagine once more that loyal worker within you, your liver. Picture it receiving fewer irritants, fewer burdens, fewer chemical puzzles to solve. Picture it working with ease, efficiency, and renewed vitality. Picture it regaining the strength to support your energy, digestion, clarity, and emotional balance. This is not fantasy. It is biology. It is what happens when you choose moderation and awareness over habit and convenience. And so, as you step back into your daily life, carrying the knowledge of how chili, turmeric overdosing, MSG, salt, sugar, and artificial seasoning mixes affect your liver, remember that your goal is not perfection. Your goal is preservation. Preservation of comfort, clarity, movement, and joy. Your meals can still be delicious. Your moments at the table can still be warm and meaningful. But now, they will also be supportive of the organ that has quietly supported you for a lifetime. In this way, caring for your liver becomes an act of respect, not only for the body you live in, but for the years you still have ahead of you. Years that deserve to be lived with vitality, ease, and dignity. Years where you wake up with the lightness that comes from a healthy liver. Years where you continue to laugh, think, love, and savor life with a body that supports you. And as you take your next bite of food, whatever it may be, may you do so with the gentle awareness that you are feeding not only your hunger, but your future,